Most people assume they'll live to 80, at least. It's a number we've come to associate with a long life, the so-called golden benchmark of aging. And yet, something quietly tragic is happening. The truth is, far fewer people are reaching that number than we like to believe. It's not sudden, it's not always obvious. But there are forces working silently in the background. Little habits, hidden conditions, emotional blind spots that begin the slow erosion of our health years before we realize anything is wrong. And by the time the warning signs are clear, it's often too late. So the question isn't how we die. The real question is what's killing us slowly while we're still alive. My name is Dr. Edward, and I've spent the last 30 years working with thousands of older adults, men and women alike, helping them rediscover their vitality, their emotional intimacy, and yes, their sexual health in the years most people assume those things begin to fade. In my practice, I've seen patients who seemed perfectly fine one year and then declined rapidly the next. Their blood work, their scans, their conversations didn't scream danger, but something quiet was brewing, and over time, I began to see patterns, 5 of them, to be exact, 5 silent killers that most people dismiss as normal aging until it's too late. One of the most overlooked killers I see in my patients isn't even physical. It's emotional. It's the subtle erosion of purpose. You see, when we retire, when the children leave home, when our roles shift from provider or caregiver to something less defined, there's often a vacuum left behind, and into that vacuum creeps a dangerous feeling: uselessness. People stop setting alarms in the morning. They stop dressing with intention. They stop having conversations that stretch beyond the weather. And what follows isn't just boredom, it's biological. The brain needs purpose to remain alert. The heart needs connection to remain strong. And the immune system, believe it or not, reacts to our emotional environment more than we realize. I've sat beside men who once ran companies and now can't remember the last time they felt truly needed. I've spoken with women whose families adore them, but who feel invisible the moment the holidays pass. When your life begins to feel like a waiting room, your body listens and it starts shutting down quietly, little by little. If you're still watching, I want to ask you something gently but firmly. When was the last time you woke up excited, not just out of habit, not just to follow the routine, but truly excited for something you would do that day? If it takes you a while to answer that, don't worry, you're not alone. But that silence inside you, it's not harmless. It's one of the earliest signs that the body's no longer being fully lived in. Now here's where it gets even more insidious. When that sense of purpose fades, it brings something else with it. Something most people mistake for just getting older. Inflammation, chronic. Low-grade inflammation is one of the greatest threats to longevity, and yet it's rarely talked about in a way people can feel. But if you've noticed your joints getting stiffer, your energy dipping after lunch, your sleep getting lighter and more restless, that's not just normal aging. That's your body fighting a battle you don't see. Inflammation isn't a loud intruder. It's a slow leak. It attacks silently from the inside out, and it's fueled by things we overlook every day. Processed foods that say heart healthy on the label, sugars hiding in your morning yogurt, sitting too long in the same chair, and yes, even holding on to anger or resentment long after the moment has passed. I've looked into the eyes of patients who carry pain, not just in their knees, but in their memories. And let me tell you, unhealed emotional wounds keep the immune system on high alert. For years, it's around this time that most people begin reaching for more pills, more supplements, more quick fixes. But that's not what the body's really craving. What it's asking for is relief from the invisible weight it's been holding, a shift in the way you eat, yes, but also a shift in the way you think, the way you forgive, the way you move through space. Let me share a story I'll never forget. A man named Arthur came to me at 74. He was widowed, had mild arthritis, a little weight gain, nothing that raised red flags. But what struck me was his voice. It trembled, not because of illness, but because he hadn't spoken with real vulnerability in years. When I asked him what brought him in, he said, I don't feel sick, but I feel like I'm slowly disappearing. That sentence stayed with me. Over the next 6 months, we changed his diet modestly. We added short walks, nothing intense. But more importantly, we worked on one thing: connection. I encouraged him to join a local community garden. He hesitated, but went. Within 3 weeks, he was telling stories, making friends. He said to me, "Doc, it's the first time in years I felt younger going to bed than I did waking up." The inflammation markers in his blood dropped, his pain reduced, his skin looked clearer, his laughter came back. All of this, not because of a magic drug, but because something inside him reawakened. This is what most people miss. They wait for a diagnosis to make a change, but the body whispers before it screams. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear it in the way you breathe when no one's around, in the way you check the time, not because you're busy, but because you want the day to end. So before we go further, I want to ask for something. If any of this feels personal to you or reminds you of someone you care about, a parent, a friend, a partner, please share this video with them. We lose too many people not because they didn't have access to medicine, but because they didn't know what to notice soon enough. Your story, your energy, your light, they're still needed. Let's not let it fade quietly. In the next part, I'll show you the second silent killer. And I promise it's one most doctors won't mention during your routine checkup, but you'll feel its effect every time you open your fridge. Let's talk about what's sitting in your refrigerator right now. Not just the usual suspects, like leftover takeout or sugary drinks, but the quiet staples, the healthy yogurt with fruit on the bottom, the whole grain bread, the salad dressings with words like light, organic, or heart smart. We've been taught to believe the food we eat is either helping or harming us, and that we can tell the difference easily by reading the label. But what if I told you that one of the deadliest killers hiding in plain sight is in the very food you trust to keep you alive? I'm talking about ultra-processed ingredients. And I don't mean chips or soda, I mean the stuff disguised as good. Over the last 2 decades, I've watched countless older adults decline without any obvious warning. No stroke, no heart attack, no cancer diagnosis, just slowing down. Their skin grayed, their digestion worsened, they forgot words mid-sentence. And almost always, when I asked them to bring me a sample of what they ate in a typical week, the same pattern emerged: packaged foods with low-fat labels, vegetable oils, margarine, microwavable meals with healthy choice branding, and even protein bars packed with chemicals I could barely pronounce. The problem with these foods isn't just what they contain, it's what they displace. They push out real food. They replace nutrients with fillers, fiber with gums and emulsifiers, flavor with sugar and salt. And for a senior body already fighting to absorb nutrients, already working harder to digest and repair, this is a slow death sentence. It clogs arteries. Yes, but worse. It fogs the mind. It weakens muscle. It accelerates cellular aging. And yet, it's rarely blamed, because it doesn't strike like lightning, it erodes like rust. I had a patient named Margaret, 78, sharp-witted, full of charm, but every time I saw her, she looked a little more tired, a little more bloated, a little more forgetful. She chalked it up to aging. We ran all the tests, nothing alarming, but something didn't sit right, so I asked to see what she ate. She proudly pulled out a notebook and said, "I eat clean, doctor." When we looked through it, I found a common theme. Everything came from a box or a bottle. Nothing bad per se, but nothing alive. No color from plants. No protein she cooked herself. No healthy fat from real sources. When we swapped out her diet items for actual food, simple vegetables, clean protein, olive oil, fresh herbs, it didn't take long. Within a month, she was sleeping better. Within 2, her skin was glowing, and by 3 months, she cried in my office. I didn't realize how dim I'd become until the light came back, and if you're still with me, this is your checkpoint. I know change is hard, especially when you've trusted certain habits for years, but if you're waking up more tired than you went to bed, if your energy crashes in the middle of the day, if your cravings whisper louder than your hunger, something is off. Your body is asking for something real, something it recognizes. And the older we get, the more essential that becomes. This isn't about dieting. It's about dignity, about giving your body the food it deserves after decades of carrying you through life. Let me offer a visual. Imagine your body as a house built in the 1950s. For years, it stood strong, but now, the walls are a little thin, the wiring's a bit outdated, and it needs better materials to keep standing. Would you patch up that house with cheap plastic and hope it lasts? Or would you invest in the good stuff? Wood, stone, care, craftsmanship. Your body is no different. The food you eat is either repairing or replacing, strengthening or sabotaging, and most of us don't realize the sabotage until we're too weak to reverse it. Now, let's step away from the kitchen and walk into a different kind of room. The one most people try to avoid talking about. The one where loneliness lives. Because the third silent killer I want to share with you isn't physical either. It's social. We don't talk about the social breakdown that happens after 60 rounds. Friendships shrink. Family moves away. People retire. And the casual connections, co-workers, neighbors, even friendly clerks, fade out. And slowly, isolation creeps in. But here's the terrifying part. Loneliness isn't just sad, it's lethal. Studies have shown that prolonged loneliness has the same health effect as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It raises blood pressure, it inflames the heart, it quickens cognitive decline, and yet, it hides well, because unlike a limp or a cough, loneliness doesn't make noise. I remember one gentleman, Eugene. He lived alone after his wife passed. And though his children called on holidays, most days passed without a single voice. He was meticulous about his medications, walked every day, ate modestly well, but his health kept slipping, not dramatically, but just enough to concern me. And one day, during a routine visit, he looked at me and said, "I miss being interrupted." I didn't understand at first. Then he explained, "I used to be annoyed when someone rang the doorbell, when my wife asked me something mid-thought, when the phone rang during dinner. But now, the silence feels endless. I'd give anything to be interrupted again." That moment broke me, because he didn't need more pills. He needed presence. He needed to be seen, heard, touched, teased, challenged, comforted. Humans are wired for connection. And when we don't get it, the body begins to decay, not just emotionally, but biologically. Hormones shift, sleep changes, memory fades, appetite disappears, and often, even willpower starts to slip away. So let me say this clearly. Staying socially connected isn't a luxury. It's not optional. It's as essential as clean water and healthy food. If you've been isolating yourself, even slowly, please reach out. Not for company, but for life. Join a book club, call the neighbor, volunteer. Take a class, even online. Your presence still matters, deeply, and not just to others, but to your own body. In the next part, I'll reveal one more silent killer that often begins as a habit you were taught to be good, something responsible, even praised, but over time, it robs you of the very energy you're trying to protect. And if you've stayed with me this far, I'm honored. It means you care enough to keep learning, keep growing, and keep living, not just existing. That's how we change the narrative, not by fearing death, but by feeding life again. There's a habit many older adults cling to because it feels responsible, safe, even productive. But it's one of the most misunderstood and quietly destructive patterns I've witnessed in people over 60. It starts with caution, then a little bit of fear, then gradually becomes a daily rhythm that chips away at vitality, often under the disguise of being wise or conservative. I'm talking about over-resting, Now, don't get me wrong, rest is vital, sleep is healing, gentle recovery is essential. But the kind of rest I see too often in my patients after retirement isn't restorative. It's retreat. It's sitting for hours every morning. Then again after lunch. Then dinner. And finally in front of the television before bed. It's letting the body grow stiffer because it feels safer not to move. It's mistaking stillness for serenity when, biologically, it's the slow shutting down of systems meant to stay in motion. The human body, especially the aging body, is not meant to be idle. Your joints are fed by movement. Your circulation improves with every step. Your brain lights up when you walk, stretch, dance, laugh, even just balance on one leg while brushing your teeth. But the more we take it easy, the more the body interprets that as a signal. I'm not needed anymore. And like any efficient machine, the body begins conserving energy by shutting down systems. Muscle mass declines, coordination weakens, digestion slows, and the worst part, confidence starts to fade. I've seen people who once walked freely become afraid of falling, not because they had fallen, but because they stopped trusting their own legs. Let me tell you about Elsie. She was 82 when I met her. She used to walk every morning, meet friends, garden, even attend dance classes. But after a minor hip strain, not even a fracture, she was told to rest more. She obeyed, and what followed wasn't recovery, it was a slow fade. Within 6 months, she needed a walker. Within a year, she wasn't leaving the house. By the time she saw me, her voice carried more fear than fatigue. She said, "Doctor, I'm scared to move." But when we gently reintroduced motion, safely, slowly, her confidence returned. Not just physically, her face lit up differently. Her posture changed. Her sense of humor returned. Her blood pressure improved. Her digestion eased. The light came back. So if you're watching this and think rest equals safety, I want to challenge that idea. Movement is safety. Movement is medicine. You don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights, but your body must be reminded every single day that you still want it, still need it, that your muscles have purpose, that your bones still carry you, that your lungs still hunger for fresh air. Movement is how we say, "I'm still here," without using words. And now, we arrive at the fifth silent killer. This one is the most cunning, because it doesn't enter through your mouth or your muscles, it enters through your beliefs. You see, aging is not just biological, it's cultural. And the stories we tell ourselves about growing older become self-fulfilling. I've met 65-year-olds who act like they're 90, and 90-year-olds who seem younger than people half their age. What makes the difference? Not money, not genes, not even health history. It's mindset. It's what I call the aging identity. That quiet internal belief that says, "I'm old now, so I guess this is how it's supposed to be." That mindset is lethal because it lowers your expectations of what's possible. It shrinks your dreams, it dulls your curiosity, and over time, it convinces you to stop trying. I've had patients resist change, not because they couldn't do it, but because they didn't think it was worth doing anymore. They stopped learning new skills. They stopped dressing up. They stopped flirting. They stopped dancing, not because they didn't want to, but because someone, somewhere, told them they were too old. Please hear this. You are not too old to surprise yourself. You are not too old to heal. You are not too old to change, to laugh, to start again. And the moment you start believing that, everything shifts. I met a man once named Jerome, 83 years old, a retired bus driver. He came to me after a mild stroke, believing his best years were behind him. "I'm just hoping to stay out of the hospital," he told me. But one day, as we talked about his life, he casually mentioned he used to sing jazz in his 20s, but that was a lifetime ago. He shrugged. I challenged him. "Why not sing again?" He laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time in our sessions. Weeks later, he joined a senior music group. His voice was rusty at first, but his soul wasn't. His balance improved, his sleep deepened, and his daughter told me he started wearing his old cologne again. That is healing. Aging is not the end. It's the second act. And if you write yourself out of the story too soon, the body follows. But if you decide, even quietly, that you still have something to offer, something to learn, someone to love or forgive or inspire, then your body listens and it starts to reawaken. So now you know these 5 silent killers: loss of purpose, chronic inflammation, social disconnection, over-resting, and a fatal mindset are not fate. They are patterns, and patterns can be changed, not overnight, not with a single supplement, but gently, steadily, and with intention. If you've made it to the end of this message, I want to say something from the heart. Your life matters, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are. Right now, in this season, there's still time to walk differently, to speak to yourself more kindly, to feed your body better, to pick up the phone and reconnect, to open the blinds and let the light back in. Your age is not a verdict. It's just a number. The rest is up to you. And if this video stirred something in you, please share it with someone, a sibling, a friend, a partner, someone who might be quietly battling one of these silent killers without knowing it. Because sometimes, all it takes to save a life is a reminder that they're not alone.